My name's Dan Schultz, and I'm a graduate student at the MIT Media Lab, and I'm here to talk to you about automated bullshit detection. Turns out there's a fair amount of it to detect. But first, I'm going to sort of reiterate a story that a lot of you probably already know, but it definitely bears repeating. A story involving aliens, interplanetary warfare, and years later, Tom Cruise. So, War of the Worlds. So, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read the book. Basically, it's a classic tale of aliens come to Earth, aliens like Earth, aliens eat humans, and aliens die of some horrible bacterial disease. But that's actually not what's interesting. What's interesting was the radio broadcast in 1938. Orson Welles started off pretty normal, a radio adaptation of War of the Worlds. Introduction, narrator, some character development. But pretty quickly, it turned into a series of fake news broadcasts. Now, the problem of these fake news broadcasts is that if you missed the beginning part and you turned in, it sounded like real news broadcasts. And so, naturally, in a collective failure of judgment, people believed that the world was being invaded by aliens, and they panicked. So the question is, why did this happen? How did this happen? And what was going through their heads when they were sort of running around and not calling bullshit? So luckily, there was an academic on the scene. Hadley Cantrell, a Princeton professor, was there, and he quickly interviewed people and tried to figure out what was going on. And one of the pieces of his analysis was this concept of critical ability, which is the natural instinct to question information before you take it in and believe it. And then the capacity to act on that instinct and come up with some reasonable conclusions. It's on Urban Dictionary. So this, fast forward to today, this is actually really, really relevant, probably more relevant than it was before. And in the fight against misinformation, this is actually the second most powerful tool out there. And that's why I'm interested in it. So, gosh, it's cut off. Anyway, so this is where I'm coming from when I say that I want to help media consumers think more carefully about the messages that they see online. I want to help trigger critical abilities when you see what might potentially be bullshit. And so how do you do that? How do you get people to question these messages instead of falling back into their natural tendency to sort of believe what they want to believe or disbelieve what they want to disbelieve? How do you turn them into watchdogs? Take a step back, it turns out there's actually an entire field dedicated to critical ability, and you'd think it's journalism, but actually it's fact-checking. So people that question journalists, people that look into claims made, put it out there. What I'd like to do is leverage the work done by those people and bring it into the picture at the point of media consumption, highlighting phrases that are potentially dubious as determined by fact-checkers, trigger that critical ability. And then link back to the analysis being done so that way once the reader says, uh-oh, what's going on, they can look into it a little bit more in an easy format. So now the question is this actually possible? Is this science fiction? And the answer is, it is possible. It's not all the way there, but we're much closer to it than we were, say, 5 years ago. Natural language processing is at the point where, it's robust enough. You can get likely instances. So we can start tackling deeper questions. What is this useful for? Is it useful for how can it be used for media producers? How can you actually, remind people, hey, what you're writing might not be true, or you should explain it more deeply? How can it be used for media consumers? What is that interface going to look like? Are you highlighting things that are true and false, or rather, are you going to be moving more towards the critical ability side, where you're just highlighting things that are worth thinking about a little bit more? And these are pretty deep. So, if done incorrectly, you can do more harm than good. You can get people to be lazier than they were before. Instead of triggering critical abilities, you get them so they follow the bouncing ball or the red highlighter. You could have robot algorithm overlords who are making mistakes. And so that's sort of the direction I'm moving with my thesis work. And I think that these sort of credibility layers have the potential of really changing the way we think about online media experiences and sort of redefining digital media. So thanks a lot.